my dad would take us down to Mexico, and that was like the first time I had really had a taste of travel because it's so different, you know.
Baja.
Yeah.
Road trips
and
to
so
Baja.
I kind of fell in love with travel through that, and then I had big dreams to go to Hawaii. And then my first where travel really sank in is something I wanted to spend a lot of my life doing was going to Indonesia, you know, and just, you know, for me, I was always very interested in, growing up Catholic, I was always interested in sort of spirituality, and I had found some issues with Catholicism that really bugged me, but I didn't really I was, you know, growing up with Mile Man, it was like anything else was very foreign, you know, but I had so many questions because it wasn't really working for me. And so when I went to Indonesia and I was able to, you know, like be introduced to different, you know, like Hindu, and then I started looking into Buddhism and Islam and all these different things, and just kind of being like, wow, there is so much to look at human history and how spirituality and then religion comes in, and kind of just get to see everything and learn more about all these different things. And it's not like I became, you know, I didn't get to the point where I was like wanting to convert to anything, but it opened my eyes really, you know, and it was really a great education, you know, to sit with the Buddhists in Burma, you know, and go to in Japan and Indonesia, and just see how people lived and what was working for them, what wasn't, and learn the history of how they sort of all their effect on culture and civilizations and all that stuff. So that became like one really like interesting facet for me in travel. So it's just people, cultures, their faiths, their way of, you know, to be able, I really saw the agrarian aspect of the places that I went as super interesting, the fishing and the farming and livestock and all that. So when I went somewhere, like, it was really, there was so much, you know, there was like getting to see new waves, and that was at that time, you know, it was prior to Google Maps. So you're, you know, like, could go hang out with Jim Banks, you know. I went and hung out with Jim Banks and Morris Cole, and later on, you know, the Wayne Lynches and Jerry Lopez's, and picked their brain on ideas. And like, there was always more, you know, in these places like the Philippines or something. And then it'd be like, let's go. You know, I got you know, you get like an idea of a place, and people go, yeah, there's surf there for sure. We got this one spot, you know, like, you know, Cloud 9 in the Philippines, but that's one wave. And there's, you know, so then you end up getting a boat and spending 2 weeks, you know, going from island to island and just finding, I mean, to this day, there's so much left. And that became incredibly accessible, and we got to see a lot of stuff, a lot of really good waves that don't have a name and haven't been probably surfed since we were there. But really it was equatorial. So there was so many waves I felt that were unsurfed, that were in warm water and cheap to live in and to get boats and go places. And then it was, I felt like towards the end of the like the by like 96 and stuff, there was a lot of stuff happening on the equator, or, you know, in the warm tropical zones. And so that's when we started to go to Scotland and Ireland and Chile, and you know, I went to Antarctica. You know, I was like, the wetsuits got better.
Yeah.
You know, wetsuits got better, and they were really, I didn't mind the cold, you know, and so we started doing that stuff and being around snow and surf at the same time. And,
you know, you had this broad view of the world, and you were talking about your dad's view. Were you able to bring some of that home and share that with him, that passion for travel and the passion for exploration? And did he ever travel with you?
So yeah, he a pretty quiet man, you know. And I think he appreciated our travels, you know. I think he appreciated it, and he told us make something out of this, and we were, you know. And he kind of scratched his head, you know, because he's like, geez, why wouldn't you just stay in Hawaii and do that stuff? You know, why do you have to go here, you know, or there, or all these places? But he was proud of us. My mom told me he was proud of us, you know, so that meant a lot to me. And we dragged him. My brothers dragged him to Fiji one time, and it was him and Druku, you know, hanging tough.
Did he appreciate that?
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
Yeah, he brought back a shell.
I just think about, like, with anybody, but certainly in your guys' relationship, your parents gift you all of these great things, right? And opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then I think of utilizing that opportunity to then come back and share with them
mm-hmm.
what they weren't able to access on their own is a real gift, you know? And
yeah.
But if he doesn't have a passion for it, then it's not necessarily.
Yeah, he was, he appreciated it.
Good.
He did. And we'd tell him stories. He'd like to hear stories, you know, and we'd tell him stories. And, you know, Raymana, you know, back in the day, you know, he would. So my dad never said, "Oh, I love you," you know, and he didn't hug you ever. And I remember he was working on a surfboard there, and I was on the phone with Raymana, and it was the early days when we'd go to Tahiti for a summer and sleep on his grandmother's floor, you know, and it was just amazing times. And Raymana was really at that time figuring out surfing, you know, and just figured out really quickly how to do some amazing things. And Raymana always says, love you, brother. And so I was on the phone with Raymana, and we were getting ready to go back to Tahiti, you know. I think it was Sean Briley and Keone Watson. Anyway, he was like, love you, brother. I'll see you soon. And I'm like, love you, Mana. And I saw my dad just turn and look at me like, the fuck was that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, not mad at me, just confused.
Sure.
And he didn't say anything. And then Chester died, and he heard some I love yous from, you know, from the boys, you know, and wasn't more than like 6 months after that, I was leaving for a trip, or there was a big swell or something. He's like, all right, so, all right, boy, love you. And I was like, what? And by the way, his back was already, he was already walking
right
away.
So he wouldn't have to make eye contact.
Yeah.